But again, this is a very tough issue. And what I have done in my life is to sit and talk with any group at any time, in any place, and to listen and to learn from what they have to say.
Rob?
On the partial birth abortion, can you explain that?
I don't think there's anybody on the face of the earth who is for partial birth abortion. For it. Well, I'll just tell you what I believe. I don't believe anybody. Well, maybe some are, but I'm not. Let's put it that way.
What about
What the problem you get into is, for example, here in the state of Connecticut, you have a very simple law that's written that prevents third trimester abortion except in a case where the life or the health of the mother is threatened. I'm not a doctor, and I can't predict with any certainty what might occur in the third trimester. I just can't predict that with any certainty. But I think that, in my opinion, or at least in my belief, that it's better not to try to legislate a medical procedure where, for example, I don't know what's going to be happening in a crisis or in an emergency. That I trust the doctor to make a judgment, and to try to legislate that judgment may in fact be harmful to the life and health of the woman. Again, you know I am. You know that I respect others in my party and outside my party of a different view. You know that I take the issue incredibly seriously. And again, I'm more than willing to sit with any group at any time, in any place, to work through a discussion of the issue.
We're just going to have a couple more questions from the people. Then I want to get to the cards that you folks have been passing up. If anybody's got a card that they need to get to us, if you could pass it on up. Bob McGuffey, you got one more shot?
Yeah. Rob, it's often said that when a senator or a congressman gets to Washington, they surrender their vote to their party's leadership, meaning you get there, and if you want to get a good seat on a committee, if you want to get a decent assignment, or you want to get funding for your future races, go with the leadership. And we see so much of that down there. So we see 95% voting with the leadership. And so the question is, do you have a strategy to be both effective and keep your independence going forward? Should you make the Senate?
Yes, and that's a very insightful question, because it's a question that, in my opinion at least, reflects a knowledge of how these legislative bodies work. And there is a way to do it, and I will just simply say that if you go back and look at my votes as a member of the House of Representatives, in the 3 terms I was there, I was ranked in the top 5 most independent members of Congress with regard to my party and with regard to President Bush. Top 5 most independent, and I can pull those figures out. So how do you do that? Well, there are 2 types of votes, really, that you have in the House and the Senate. The first type are what I call procedural votes. And these are votes like a motion to recommit a bill, a motion to instruct on a bill, and most of those procedural votes come out of one party or another. And the leadership of the party wants solidarity on procedural votes, because without that solidarity, they lose their power. The second set of votes are non-procedural and are what I call substantive votes. In other words, are you going to vote for or against the Defense Authorization Bill? The Defense Authorization Bill authorizes the expenditure of funds for our men and women in uniform. Are you going to vote yes, or are you going to vote no? And that's where your judgment has to apply, and that's where I draw the line. that's where I say I represent a district from Connecticut. My district of 681,000 people has certain interests, economic interests, certain political interests, certain social interests, and based on my district, this bill is not good for my people, and I'm going to vote no. But I will tell the leadership that in advance of the vote. And 9 times out of 10, if you're candid and straightforward, and you tell them where you're coming from and why you're voting a certain way, I'm voting my district, then you're not held in low regard. It's when you mislead the leadership, you don't tell them, or you tell them one thing and you do another thing, that you get into trouble. Now, I served as a member of the staff in the U.S. Senate for 6 years. 2 years with Senator John Chafee of Rhode Island, 6 years with Senator Barry Goldwater of Arizona. I was his staff director of the Senate Intelligence Committee. So I learned in the Senate as a Senate staffer. I moved from intern to legislative assistant, professional staff member, and staff director. I learned the rules, the protocols, and the procedures. Barry Goldwater was not the kind of guy that would do exactly what the leadership wanted. Anyone think he was?
No.
No way. He could be a real pain in the... Well, he could be a real pain. But he was widely admired and respected because he told the truth as he saw it. And he represented his state as he saw it. And you know what? He didn't need a special mortgage or a cottage in Ireland. You know? And as his wife told me, Peggy Goldwater told me years ago when we were on a trip together and I was staffing the trip, you know, she said, let me tell you what it's been like to be married to Barry Goldwater for over 50 years. She said, I married a rich businessman, but I ended up with a poor politician. It's true. He was one of the richest families in Arizona. By the time he finally died, they were down to one house and a small bank account. Because for him, public service was about service. It was about speaking truth. It was about honestly representing the citizens who sent him to Washington. It was about the idea that I said at the beginning that public office is a public trust. It's not about you. It's about the people you serve. And again, at his funeral, when he died, and he was buried in Arizona, more than half of the Senate was out for the ceremony. Far more that went to Lyndon Johnson's funeral. So you see, you can be independent. You can represent your district. And you can get along with your colleagues, but it's a question of being candid and honest and straightforward and telling it the way it is.